Hello friends, my name is Aubrey. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to have you all here with me today. So as unbelievable as it is, we are actually almost halfway through the year. So we are rapidly approaching the end of June, at which point the year will be half over, and that's crazy. But in preparation for that, I thought that it was time to do the mid-year book freakout tag. So I did this tag last year and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun to just kind of go back and look at things that I've read this year and things that I've received and how I felt about them. And so I thought it would be fun to do it again. So we have 12 questions here, so we're just going to go through each one and talk about some fun books. So the first question that we have is the best book or books you've read so far this year. So I have a few here that I want to talk about. The first one is Under the Earth, Over the Sky. This is by Emily McCosh, and I loved this book so much. I had never heard of it before I found a copy in a local bookstore. And then when I read it, I expected to like it based on the premise, which deals with fae and found family and adoption. But I loved it way more than I even expected to. It was so fun and whimsical and just beautifully written. It is a very, very slow burn sort of story and extremely character focused, but it worked so well for me and I loved it so much. And honestly, I don't know if this author has written anything else, but if she has, I am very much looking forward to reading more of her works, because it made me so happy. I enjoyed it immensely, and it's one of those books that I wish I could go back and read it for the first time again. And then the other books that I have here also go with question number 2, which is best sequel you've read so far this year. So all the rest that I have are sequels, are not the first book, but later books in series. So the first one is Murtagh. This is the newest book in the Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. The Inheritance Cycle is one of my favorite series of all time. And I really enjoyed this one. We follow obviously Murtagh here as opposed to Aragon, who is the main character in the original quartet that you can see over here. But I really, really liked it. Again, this one has quite a bit of action and adventure, but again, it is very character focused. It is more slow burn than a lot of action-based fantasy. Because we are following Murtagh and how he is dealing with the events of the original quartet, and how, now that that is over, how he is, processing what happened to him, what he took part in, dealing with the new state of the world and his place in it, and trying to find healing, and just the character development in here I enjoyed. I do think that this book is not intended to be a standalone from how I understood it. Like the feeling that I got from it, especially at the ending, I do feel as if there is going to be a lot more to say about Murtagh and about his story, because this didn't really feel like it had an ending. It had an ending to this particular question that he's trying to answer in this particular quest that he is on, but as far as like his character, I don't feel as though Christopher Paolini is done with him, which makes me very happy. I do hope that there will be a lot more. So that is like the caveat that I give here, is if you go into this, do know that I don't think it is supposed to be. First of all, you should read the original Inheritance Cycle first, or you're not going to understand anything that's happening in here. But also, I don't think that it's supposed to be like the end-all be-all of Murtagh's story. I feel that there is still so much more that he has to do, and to do, not just for Allegasia, but for himself, if that makes sense. So I'm very much looking forward to more coming out in this world, but I did really, really enjoy this. It was so nice to be back in one of my favorite fictional worlds of all time. Although I will say, so far, the original 4 books I still love more than this one, but I did really love it. Then I also read volumes 9 and 10 of The Case Study of Vanitas by Jun Mochizuki, and it's one of my favorite manga series. I love it so much, and volume 10 in particular, I really, really loved the character growth and the backstory and the building of the relationship between Noe and Vanitas and their trust for one another. I really liked this volume a lot. And I'm really sad because I do like to, with these shorter sort of manga volumes, I do like to have at least two to read together. And volume 11 has come out recently. I may have said these were the most recent, but volume 11 has come out recently. But there is no release date yet for volume 12, so I feel like we are definitely starting a new arc with what happens at the very, very end of volume 10, and I really want to know what's going to happen. And see the story progress and see these characters continue to grow, especially with what has happened in volumes 9 and 10 with them and how they're going to deal with that and how that's going to change their behavior and the way that they act with one another, because we're already seeing some of that at the end of this volume. And I want to see that, but I also want to wait till I get volume 12 so it won't feel like I just fly through volume 11 and then am done very quickly. So it may be a bit of a wait, but I loved it so much. Volumes 9 and 10, very intense, but oh my gosh, I really, really loved it. And then, this year, I also caught completely up on Sasuke and Miyano by Sho Harusono. This is my favorite romance manga that I've read. Not that I've read a lot at this point. It is a goal of mine to read a lot more. But I love Sasuke and Miyano so much. And I was really concerned as the third years were graduating high school that it was not going to be the same sort of feeling going forward. But I really liked volumes 9 and 10. As you can see, this is volume 10, which is the most recent volume in the main series that's out. I did also read all of Hirano and Kaguya and very much enjoyed it, which is a spin-off following two other characters in this series, as well as the light novels and the official comic anthology. But I'm holding up volume 10 of the main series because volumes 9 and 10 of Sasuke and Miyano were just so good. I loved that our third years are not just disappearing off the face of the earth. I mean, obviously Sasuke won't, but like Ogasawara and Hirano and Hanzawa, I just love that they are still here and in the picture. I really loved the scene at like the carnival and stuff. I thought that was so much fun. And just, it makes me happy. I don't like when characters are forced to like go their separate ways and stuff. It really makes me sad. So seeing those bonds continue to remain and stay very strong just really made my heart happy. And also, of course, the romance is adorable. So I just continue to love the series. Again, I don't know when any more of these are coming out either, but I am eagerly anticipating the next volume, and I love Sasuke and Miyano so much. It just genuinely brings me joy every time I read it. And finally, for this question, I also read The Cemeteries of Amalo by Catherine Addison. This is a series within the Chronicles of Ozreth, which starts with the Goblin Emperor. So the Goblin Emperor is the first book in this world, and then the Cemeteries of Amalo follows it. So we have The Witness for the Dead, The Grief of Stones, and The Tomb of Dragons. And I read all three of them this year, and oh my gosh, I loved it so much. I had been putting this off because we do follow a different main character in this series than we did in The Goblin Emperor, and I was really worried about missing Maya so much. And while I did and will always want to read more Maya content, Thara, I love him. I love him so much. I loved his story. I loved seeing the friends he was making and the people he was meeting, and I loved that these have a mystery element to each of them, because as a witness for the dead, Thara does often get involved in trying to solve murders. Or mysterious deaths, as the case may be, and I really, really loved them. The ending of The Tomb of Dragons, I will talk more about this in my second quarter reading wrap-up, which will come out in July. But just very briefly, I will say the ending of The Tomb of Dragons, I didn't dislike it, but I was very surprised by how it ended because I felt like the rest of the series was leading up to something different than what happened. But even with that, and perhaps aside from that, I'm not sure, I still loved these books so much, and I really need more in this world. Please, Catherine Addison, don't stop writing about Ozreth. I need more. I need more so badly, but I loved it. I loved them so much. Alright, so moving on to question number 3. New release you haven't read yet but want to. So I have 4 books here. I will say I am not counting special editions that have come in because typically those are not new releases. They're just new editions of a book that's already out. So I specifically picked 4 books that are just the actual new release. The first one is How to Seal Your Own Fate by Kristen Perrin. This is the second book in the Castle Knoll files, and I keep saying in videos that I will be reading this very soon, and I will. My mom has just had a lot going on preventing her from starting a new book, and I, in the meantime, keep starting other books. So we are planning to read this one together like we did with the first book in this series. Which is How to Solve Your Own Murder, and it was really, really fun to read together and to like toss theories back and forth. So that's what we're going to do with this one, and so we really are going to read it very soon. I think as soon as I finish the book that I'm currently reading, we're going to start on this one. So I'm really excited because I loved the first book so much, and it's also really nice to read something with my mom that we both really enjoy. And then I have a Donmei, a new Donmei, and that is Legend of Exorcism, or Tianbao Fuyao Lu by Fei Tian Ye Xiang. This is book 1. Book 2 has also come out at this point, and recently arrived at my house, which is exciting. But the reason that I'm so excited to read, or to start this series, is because several years ago now, I had seen the first season of the Donghua, which is the, animated Chinese animated version. And the first season at the time was the only one out, or at least the only one that was available to me in America. And I really liked it. I thought it was kind of cheesy and over the top at times. But I have noticed that some Donghua adaptations tend to be that way. I don't know how much that's going to actually be in the original story, but I'm just really excited to read it because ever since I finished that season, I have wanted to know what happened to these characters. So now that the novels are getting English releases, I am super excited because I'll actually get to find out now. I'll actually get to continue the story and read it in its original format, which is always a fun time. Then I have the next book in a series that I have very much been enjoying this year, and that is Loud of Count's Family by Yu Rieo Han. Rieo? I'm not sure how to pronounce Korean, and I'm so sorry. But this is book 4 in the series. I've read the first 3 books this year already, and I'm really enjoying it a lot. It is an isekai, it is a light novel, it is very over the top, but I just really like pretty much every trope that I've encountered in this so far, so it's just such a delightful time reading this series, and this is the most recent one that has come to my house recently, actually this month, and so I'm really excited to read it because I have been keeping up with the series as the volumes release. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen next with Kale and his group of friends who he has collected, and it, like I said, it just has so many tropes in it that I really, really enjoy. I know I've talked about this series several times, so I'm not going to rant on and on about it, but yeah, I'm just really excited to continue with it because it's one of those reads that is just perfect for you. And that you just have such a good time with. And then the last new release that I have for this question is Vesuvius by Cass Bain? I'm not sure. I have been looking forward to this book since I pre-ordered it. It again just got to my house actually this past week. I'm so excited for this. This has so many things that I love. Pompeii, Roman mythology, a romance, like a forbidden sort of romance love story. I've mentioned before, I have been obsessed with Pompeii since I was a kid. I've seen so many documentaries, read so many articles, and different like little books and stuff in elementary school about it. And so this will actually be the second book that I've read this year that involves Pompeii and Roman mythology, the first being Us in Ruins by Rachel Moore. But this one is actually set in ancient Rome, and it's set when, obviously, as the title suggests, Mount Vesuvius is erupting. And I'm just so excited. I'm so excited for this. I can just feel that I'm gonna love this. I can just feel it. I just really hope it doesn't end tragically. If you've read it, please don't spoil it for me, but I really hope it doesn't end tragically. I also already have some theories based on some of the imagery in the cover and also on the naked hardback. I'm not sure how well you can see the guy here, but if you can see beside his head, we have very faint outlines of wings, very small wings on either side of his head. If you are familiar at all with Roman mythology, you might get what I'm getting at. You can also see his sandals and the helmet. I have some theories. I don't know if they're going to pan out, but we'll see. But yes, I'm very excited to read this one. Okay, then question number 4 is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So I'm going to be honest, I don't have a ton of things ordered for the second half of the year at this point. And I'm only counting releases that I have ordered, because that narrows it down significantly and makes it a lot easier for my brain so that I don't get overwhelmed. So I will say one that I do have pre-ordered that I'm really, really excited for is the graphic novel for The Raven Boys, which is the first book in the Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. The Raven Cycle is one of my favorite series of all time, and when I saw that they were getting a graphic novel like adaptation, I literally lost it. I am so excited for this book. I really, really hope I enjoy the way the characters are drawn. Because when it's like a manga and it doesn't have a light novel, or the manga is the first version that you are exposed to, your image of the character is based on the artist's interpretation of them, their drawing of them. But when it's based on a series that you've already read in prose form, and then it gets a version, either manga or graphic novel as the case is in for this series, I always worry a little bit that they're not going to be how I pictured them in my head. Same as like when, it gets adapted for the screen, movie or TV show. So I am just a little bit worried about that. I really hope I'm going to like it, but like my excitement eclipses that worry immensely. I'm so, so excited for this. And honestly, this series really, it deserves all the hype it gets. I love it so much. So yes, that is the release that I'm currently the most excited about, that I have already pre-ordered. Okay. Number 5, biggest disappointment. So my biggest disappointment this year, I'm going to be honest, I've had a really great reading year so far. I have really liked most of what I've read and at least enjoyed pretty much everything that I've read. But my biggest disappointment would have to be You Can Have My Back by Minami Kotsuna and illustrated by Hitomi Hitoyo. This is book 1 in the series and the only one that I've read so far. This had some scenes in it that I felt were extremely unnecessary for the story, and I did not appreciate them. trigger warnings for this. There are some times of attempted assault. There is, which those, like, I'm like, you see that in books, and you have the whole, like, oh, someone steps in and saves the person, and that one, those I'm fine with, I can deal with. But there was some very dubious consent in a certain scene in this book that upset me a lot. I didn't like it. But other than that, this wasn't like a bad read. I didn't hate it, and I am going to continue the series eventually. I just really think that it disappointed me because it wasn't what I expected. The way in which the characters are portrayed, the way in which the older character in the pairing is, some of the things he's doing, just certain things, I was like, this is not exactly what I signed up for when I read the synopsis. So yeah, this was my biggest disappointment so far this year. I am going to continue the series eventually, but honestly, I'm not in a hurry to do so, which should tell you something right there. Then number 6 is my biggest surprise, which honestly is Under the Earth, Over the Sky, because again, I figured I would really, really enjoy it, but I really was so surprised by the shape that the story took and by how much I loved it. This is honestly a new favorite book of mine. I loved it so much. So that was surprising. And I didn't expect it to go the way in which it did. And I just loved it so much. So much. Alright, then number 7 is new favorite author. I guess Emily McCosh would have to go on there, although I have only read one book by her at this point. Julie Leong, who wrote The Teller of Small Fortunes. Again, I've only read one book by her as well, but I loved The Teller of Small Fortunes. It was really, really sweet and cozy, and I'm very much looking forward to reading more from her. Uriel Han, I guess, because I do really love Loud of Count's Family. But most of the authors that I've read from so far this year, I've read from in the past, so they wouldn't count for this, so I guess those 3 will be my answer there. Newest favorite character. That's a really good question. Does it have to be in books too? Because I've been watching Free with my mom, and I love everyone in Free. Haru and Makoto and Nagisa and Rei, and then Rin and Sosuke, and Ai and Momo. I love them. And Go. I love Go. So I guess those would have to count. I also really, really love Bara from the Cemeteries of Amalo. And though he is in The Goblin Emperor, he has become very, very much more a favorite in this series because you get to see a lot more of him and we follow from his perspective. And Eana. I love Eana from the same series. Eana is precious and wonderful, and I love him so much. Who else? Oh, Honora. I love Honora. Also from the Cemeteries of Mallow. I love Honora. He is such a good friend. And then I guess from Under the Earth, Over the Sky, I really, really like Ayamar. Sorry, I had to make sure I was going to say his name correctly. Ayamar, the main character, I loved him. I just thought that his whole personality and his willingness to be such a good person, and his desire to do the best that he can for everyone under his protection, and then his love for his little baby. I loved him a lot, if you can't tell. Also Kale from Loud of Count's Family. I just think he's really fun. I like seeing him be very competent in everything that he does. Yeah. I think that that's probably a good list. And I'm only including books that I finished, so I'm not including any characters from the book that I'm currently reading right now. But yeah, okay. if I could literally keep going, because I find myself getting attached to characters very easily, but like we have to stop somewhere. We have to move on. Number 10, book that made you cry. That would be The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. This is apparently the first book in a series. I don't know what the series is called. I'm at this point assuming it's the same as the title of the first book, but I don't know. But this book, it's a cozy fantasy, and honestly, just some of the ways in which the characters interact with one another are so lovely and beautiful, and the sacrifices they're willing to make for each other, it did make me cry. Not because, of tragedy or anything like that. Like I said, it is a cozy story. It is a cozy fantasy, but it did make me cry and made me emotional at times, and I really enjoyed it. Okay, number 11, book that made you happy. I would have to put Under the Earth Over the Sky on here. I would have to put The Cemeteries of Mallow on here. I would have to put Sasaki and Miyano. Also, The Teller of Small Fortunes definitely made me happy. And Loud of Count's Family. This is book 1. Just makes me happy because I just have such a good time every time that I read it. It just is so great for me personally, and I really like it. Okay, question number 12. Most beautiful book you've bought or received so far this year. So the two that I chose to show are both actually from the Broken Binding subscription. So the first one is The Mask of Mirrors, which is the first book in Rook and Rose by M.A. Carrick, and it's just absolutely beautiful. It is my favorite cover of the 3. I just really, really like the color scheme and the design on this one. And when we look at the naked hardcover, I have a thing for masquerade masks. I love them. The end papers are gorgeous as well, although a different book in this series has my favorite end papers, I think. But overall, I really like this first one. Here's the back end papers. And then the other book that I have is Magician, which is the first book in the Rift War saga, which is the first series in the Rift War cycle, I think it's called, by Raymond E. Feist. And this one just is breathtaking. Look at that. Look at the foiling on it. Or like the gloss. I guess it's not foiling, but the gloss on it. The color scheme on this book is just so beautiful. The reds and blues. Like, oh my gosh. And then again, now this one wins the absolute most beautiful book I've gotten this year, because look at the naked hardcover. Look at the dragon, guys. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then the end papers are so detailed. I mean, oh my gosh, I can't wait to receive the second and third book in this series and see them in person, because I can only imagine what they're going to look like. Alright, and then, sorry, I got off on my numbering. This is actually question 12. Books you need to read by the end of the year. So I have actually quite a list. I'm just going to link them down below. A couple of different videos if you are interested in checking them out. The first one is my priority TBR for 2025. So it's like all of the books, either standalones or continuations of series that I really want to prioritize this year. And then I will also link my series that I want to start this year video. And then I recently did a video where I did kind of an update on series and went over, again, series that I really want to continue as the year goes on. So I will link the 3 of those down below if you want to look at those, if you're interested in what I am prioritizing. Now, none of those include like my seasonal TBRs. So I do, if you're new here, I do have groups of books that I think fit certain seasons, and I do try to prioritize some of those books within each of those seasons throughout the year. So these don't include any of those books, but actually some of them I guess the series I want to continue might have some in my, I think, summer and fall TBRs. But anyway, I will link those 3 videos down below in the description if you would like to check them out and see the books that I am most excited to read going forward. But yeah, so that is all. I really, like I said, find this book tag really fun. It's fun to have to actually sit down and think about what I've read so far and what I'm looking forward to reading and what I've gotten. But yeah, if you guys want to do the tag as well and you would like to share your answers in the comment section, I would love to see how you answer any of these questions, if you want to answer just one or if you want to answer all of them. Or if you want to talk about any of the books that I mentioned here, just please, as always, keep all comments spoiler free. But yeah, I would love to hear y'all's thoughts for the year going forward. Any books that you're looking forward to reading, or any books that you've gotten so far or read so far that you have really enjoyed that have just stood out to you. But yeah, if you want to do an emoji, let's do... If you want to leave an emoji, why don't we leave your favorite bird emoji? There have been a lot of songbirds in my yard lately and in the trees in our yard, and it's just been very delightful. So we'll just have a nice little flock of birds in the comments. So if you want to leave an emoji with your comment, or if you just want to let me know you were here but you don't really have anything to say, you can put some bird emojis down there. I really love talking to you guys in the comments. It makes me so happy to hear what you have to say and to form this little community in my corner of the internet. But yes, it makes me very happy. So thank you all so much for continuing to watch and continuing to comment. But yeah, I hope that you guys are having a wonderful day or a wonderful night wherever you are, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!